Okay, in the previous lecture, we talked about human language and animal communication and the difference between both of them. Today, we're gonna talk about the rest of this chapter, the origin of language and the role of language. I will share a window. You can see, okay?
Yes.
You can see, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Good. The origin of language, we talked about language in details, and here we have the origin of language. Here we have a summary of the origin of language. If we talk about the origin of language, we will find so many books about the origin of language, why did it appear, and so many ideas about it. So here we have language is a highly developed form of animal signaling. Okay, but here how and when did we start to talk? Here we have general information. We have many points by Whitney, who said that the greater part of what is said and written upon it is mere when you talk. Other, just you have to read this just to get information here. Language probably developed in East African, okay, around 10,000, okay, or 100,000 years ago. So we have here information about the origin of language, where did it appear and when. So it is just the expectation about the appearance of language. And here we have three preconditions. What's important in this page is this, that we have three preconditions must have existed. Preconditions. Why did language appear? Why? First, we have three. First, صوتي واضح تمام, clear, my voice.
Yes, تمام واضح.
Good. First, humans had to view the world in certain common ways. Okay, we have to view the world. They notice objects and actions. So we see objects in the world. We have objects, everything in front of you. What is object? Object. The chair is object as an object. For example, clothes, door, house, everything in front of you is what? Object. So there was a need to name these things, to give them a name. So that's why we have this language. These are preconditions. They notice objects and actions, so they have to view the world in certain common ways. This is number one. Number two, they were able to produce, we as a human are able to produce a range of sounds. A spin-off, walking upright, according to one of you. So we as a humans, we produce a range of sounds. That's the point that we differentiated from animals. We said that animals produce certain sounds, but we as a human, we produce a lot of sounds, and these sounds are put together. And the third, that they must have attained the naming insight, which is the realization that sound sequences can be symbols, which stand for people and objects. So the same point here. Okay, we have the realization, we realize as a human that we have sound sequence, sound plus sound can be symbols. Okay, symbols as words, they are symbols which stand for, which refer to, which represent people and objects. For example, to which D-O-O-R, this sound sequence, symbol D-O-O-R stands for what? Stands for an object, which is door, as an object, or name of people. These are the preconditions. Why did language appear? Here we have just explanations. You can read it here. Here we have preferences. Okay, Here we have preferences. At the beginning, we have preferences. One of the students or one of people in general may ask, how do we have rules? How do we have rules here? How do we have rules? First, at the beginning, this is briefly, we have preferences, we prefer. Then these preferences tend to become habits. They become habits, and these habits become rules. That's why we have rules. Here we have example. For example, English language, when we want to start a sentence, we start with subject, verb, complement, or object. This is what preference. We prefer, English speakers, English native speakers prefer to start a sentence with subject, verb, object. This is at the beginning preference, then it becomes habit, and finally it is a rule. And if we come to Arabic language, we as Arabic speakers of Arabic language, of course, we're not speaking English, speaking Arabic language as our mother tongue, we put at the beginning, we put verb, then subject. For example, ذهب محمد إلى المدرسة. So at the beginning here we have verb, then subject, then complement, whether adverb or object. So this is what we mean by preferences. The origin of language, we have at the beginning preferences, then preferences tend to become habits, and habits become rules. And here we have examples here. I just mentioned these examples. You can go and you can read them. Then we go to the role of language. What is the role of language? Do we need language? Is it important to speak? What is the purpose of speaking? Or we don't need to speak? The word as a word, is the word powerful? Or in other words, does the word have power? The answer is of course yes. That's why if we go to YouTube now and write about motivational videos about the power of words, how words are powerful, we will find so many videos. So it's very important. So the role of language, what is the role? Here the use of language. If we use the language, if we use it, what are the purposes, the reasons that we use language? So here, number one, you can summarize them, the use of language for persuading, for convincing and influencing others. You see? So we use language to persuade, to convince. When you want to convince someone, you can convince him by using language. And you can influence, for example, presidents and prime ministers, presidents, they influence people, politicians, سياسيين, they influence people and they convince them. Okay? The power of words. This is number one. And here another use of language can be used to to communicate feelings and emotions. Okay, to communicate your feelings, your emotions, your love, intimacy, by using language. That you to show, for example, to a person, to show him that you are sad, you are happy, you love him, you hate him. You see? So this is the language. It can convey emotional feelings, something emotional, something related to love, to feeling. Okay, so by language, by using language, of course. Imagine that you don't speak, and let me put it in this way, that we have two persons, a woman and a man. They stand before each other, here face to face, and they speak, or they don't speak, just they use, for example, body language. Of course, it is different when they use language. It is hardly to understand their feelings, their emotions. But if you use language, for example, to express your happiness, your love, your admiration to others, of course, you can use what? But you can use language, okay, to express your emotion, your feelings. So this is another use of language. We have another use of language also. Humans may use, may use, as we like. So for purely aesthetic reasons. Aesthetic. Okay, here we mean by aesthetic, it means for something beautiful. يعني جمالية. Aesthetic. جمالية يكون. Okay, just we use language, like for example in writing poetry. When we write poetry, okay, songs, أغاني مثلا ممكن aesthetic, just aesthetic reason. Writing novels, writing plays, okay, so we can use language. We can use language in this way. We can also use language here to release nervous tension, to show that you are nervous, to show that you are angry, to show your frustration. أحباطك, you are frustrated, you are not happy. Okay, it's very important to show your irritation. يعني انفعالاتك, غضبك. You are angry at someone, so you can use language. So these are the uses of language. Of course, if you want to know more and more about language and the uses of language, you can Google them and you will find so many ideas about using language. Okay, and as I told you, there are so many videos, there are so many motivational videos about the use of words, how words are powerful. Okay, very important. How can you convince by using just certain words? So we finish with this chapter. This is easy here, just you have to read them and summarize them. They are very easy. The role of language, okay, the uses of language here, and also the origin of language. What is the origin of language? We have three preconditions and we talked about them. Only these are the important points. The rest بقي يقصد. The rest just information. If you want to read about them in this book, if you want to Google the details, you can search and read them. Okay, I hope it is clear. We finish with this chapter here, and next lecture we will talk about chapter 3 about sounds, about phonetics. It's very easy. This book is very easy. So next lecture we will talk about chapter number 3. And now if you have any question you can ask.
Yes, teacher.
بالكتاب الثاني هذا
Next.
الثالث.
Another